against rock and roll. Real quick, just tell us about that.
All right.
Because this was after all these, you know, after you were a part of it.
It was when you get out of the service. It was February 1960.
Can we see the clip real quick? They're going to show the clip for us here real quick. Of this.
Florida, finding out my reasons of rock and roll music and why I preach against it, and I believe with all of my heart that it is a contributing factor to our juvenile delinquency of today. I 100% believe it. Why I believe that is because I know how it feels when you sing it. I know what it does to you. And I know the evil feeling that you feel when you sing it. I know the lost position that you get into in the beat. Well, if you talk to the average teenager of today and you ask them what it is about rock and roll music that they like, the first thing they'll say is the beat, the beat, the beat.
Now, Jimmy, how do you explain that?
First of all, you got to remember, I was an alcoholic for 7 years and a drug addict for 2 years and attempted suicide 5 times.
Oh, wow.
And even though I was making big money, recording for RCA Victor, all of these things, I had a terrible situation. Elvis knew about it. He didn't drink, he didn't smoke, he didn't use profanity. He was a good, clean, living kid. Because you got to remember, he was a Pentecostal boy. He grew up in a very conservative church. Though the time I met him, he may not have been quite as conservative, but he had that background. I had no background. And I went into terrible things. He talked to me about that stuff. And in Meridian, I stayed drunk pretty much the whole time I was there. I performed, but I was, So when I turned my life over to Christ and decided to become a preacher, I decided, everything went away. And I became very conservative in the idea, it was an era, a time. We were getting ready to turn into the sex revolution among teenagers at the time. And my message that dealt with rock and roll was very limited. I spoke more about the situation that had to do with the movies of James Dean, Blackboard Jungle, which was an Academy Award showing kids in total rebellion. And I'm trying to explain all of this. Well, NBC calls me and they want to come down and take my message. So they brought their cameras in, February 1960, filmed my whole message. By the time they edited it down to 4 minutes, it turned out people breaking records and all kinds of things going on. And I'm sitting there in shock as to how they edited that thing down to 4 minutes. I preached on this subject because that was the thing that people did in that day and time. I've been asked 1,000 times since by interviewers, do I regret that? Obviously I do, because one thing I would never want to do is hurt anybody, especially somebody that's a friend of mine. Though in the message I never mentioned Elvis's name or anybody else's name. Talking about something totally, in the era and the time. And the way it came out, it wound up becoming my 15 minutes of fame from then on.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Snow. Jimmy's going to be heading out. He's got a DVD and some other things that he'll be able to sign. And we're glad to have you here, and thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you, everybody.
Jimmy Snow.